What's up, Pirates? Ray Talks here with AwakenedTCG, and today me and Jim are going to be going into kind of a topic that's not really talked about, but as OP04 is just released, some leaders that definitely take longer for their turns. We're talking about stalling today and kind of what that's going to look like for us in tournament and how it might affect some people's play.
Yep, so with this upcoming OP04 meta, we actually have two brand new leaders, which are going to be the first two leaders that are going to be able to effectively stall games. Those two being Queen and Rebecca. We've never actually seen a deck before that can kind of stall and make games go long. I guess you could say Nami, since she's not attacking leader or stuff like that, but Nami is not keeping the game in limbo. Your opponent is still trying to finish you while you try to deck out. So we're both trying to go for a thing. Queen and Rebecca are basically trying to stabilize, get their opponent's hand to a very low amount of cards or get them in a position where they basically can't do anything, and then they go on the offense. Decks like Rebecca go for more like OTK stuff, while Queen basically starves them out and then has a bunch of big bodies on board and there's just nothing the opponent can do. But basically, these are the first two decks in the game that are good. If they weren't good, we wouldn't care about them, but these decks are good, and they're going to be prevalent, and they're going to be decks that can effectively stall your opponent.
Yeah, 100%. So definitely that's going to look different in terms of tournament play, because obviously the way the overtime rules work, when a match is past its time limit, it goes into overtime, which is either 5 minutes or 5 turns, whichever is faster. Person with the most life would end up winning, and then if they're tied, it goes down to cards in deck. Whoever has more would take the win. And so I have a feeling that with these new decks that honestly really take a lot of thinking, especially for Rebecca, like her turns just take longer in general. I feel like some people could have ill intent going into matches and just kind of abuse the structure that is in place with the current system as far as like how long you can take for one turn.
100%. As you can see in the background here, we are playing one of the higher up matches in one of the flagships that happened over in Japan in the last meta. And as you can see, it just went to time. And this is on a match on stream that obviously they're not going to let these players like stall and wait timeout. And this game still went to time. So in, say, your online regional or in-person regional, there's going to be games going to time much more frequently than prior sets with Rebecca and Queen. So if these players really want to, they can stall the games and make them time out. And if they know they're going to have more life than you, they can basically slow roll in a way where they get a free win, which is no fun for anybody. So I know a few people that do take a while to think. And decks like Rebecca and Queen would kind of be problems, but even then, I don't think it would go to time. It would get close. But if these people are intentionally taking like 30 seconds to a minute for every decision, especially in Rebecca where you have like a decent amount of things to think about and do per turn, a lot of searches and all this other stuff, you can definitely intentionally kind of time your opponent out, get to 0 time left, and then basically just play for life at that point. Queen, it's going to be very easy to play for life as your leader gains life. So if this is both in-game, your opponent say at 1, you're at 1, you can gain 2 life off like a Yamato Queen. Play really slow so you know when it goes to time you'll be at 3, they'll be at 1. Stuff like this, if people have malicious intent, is going to be really easy to abuse, and I think it's going to be a big problem. So we're going to talk about what you can do about it and what is kind of too much of stalling where you need to call a judge.
Yeah, we should definitely go down the structure, but right before we do, we're going to go ahead and tell you what the online match structure looks like. So for One Piece, it is best of 1. It's never best 2 out of 3. So it's best of 1. We get a match time of 40 minutes total. And then we have the extra time or overtime, which is 5 minutes or usually 5 turns. But usually the 5 minutes comes first. So that's the structure that we're dealing with here. And that's 45 minutes, and we're saying that some of these games go to time, right, which is insane. So let's start off with early game. I feel like this is my opinion. obviously there's not much to do. You know, you have 2 Dawn, 4 Dawn, you have 3 Dawn, you have 5 Dawn. There's not much you do. You play one card, maybe you swing your leader and you pass. So like I feel like if your opponent is already starting off and stalling on these turns where you honestly do 1 or 2 actions, I think you should definitely be wary and get ready to call a judge, because these turns should definitely be way under a minute, you know, as you're taking your turn for these early game turns. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. Early game turns, you don't have a lot to do. If you have a lot of more expensive cards in your hand, obviously you're not going to be able to play them, so you can't even think about it. There's a very limited plays with limited Dawn. That's just how it works. So obviously, your earlier turns, yeah, they shouldn't take more than a minute. If I'm playing Rebecca and I'm on my turn 1, yeah, I'm gonna search 2 cards, grab it, and then call the turn, right? You don't even need to think about swinging with leader or anything later down the line as well. So
Yeah.
early game turns, yeah, a minute is definitely fair, I think.
And then I feel like this game really comes down to the flow of the game, right? So early game should definitely have that faster flow. Mid game should, you know, start slowing down a bit. But again, like you're still working with 7 Dawn, you're working with 6 Dawn. It's still kind of not too bad, like the first 3 turns. Um, I feel like the majority of times it comes down to you just being able to see your opponent take too much time. I feel like it's going to come down to whether or not you think he is taking too long, so you can call a judge. Because I mean, the safe option is always to call a judge if you ever feel like your opponent is taking too long, and they can be there and just, you know, watch your opponent. You know, they'll watch the match and make sure everything's all right. But for Rebecca in particular, I hate to say like, oh, she has a pass just because of how her deck is played, and she can really take kind of long to really think of what should happen. But I think a big part of it should be seeing how long they take for a single action, right? So if the Rebecca, you know, stalls 2 minutes and then decides, okay, let me play this 1-drop Rebecca and search, that's gonna take longer, right? And then now he has to play his whole turn out after he just took 2 minutes to think of his turn. So things like that, I feel like you should definitely pay attention to. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, later in the game, especially when you're approaching time, like say, you know, you're 10 minutes away from when they call time. If they're taking a minute or longer to think about every single action they do, like, what do I do here? What do I play? Then they like play, I don't know, a Sabo, get 2, and then they, let me think about it for another minute. I'll trash these 2 cards, like stuff like, if they're taking that long and you are consciously noticing, and you notice it once kind of earlier into the game, you can bring a timer out, whether it's on your phone off screen or it's on your computer on your separate monitor if you have one of those. Maybe just time them, see how long it is between any action. If it's close to a minute, I would 100% be like, I'm going to call a judge. I just don't. I want to make sure there's no, you know, slow rolling going on, because that is against the rules. And the judge will come in and should make your opponent go faster, and they will tell them if they're going slow. But you definitely want to do that before time is called, because by then, if you call it after you're in overtime procedures, it might be too late by then.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like even though you do have 45 minutes, I still feel like it shouldn't ever come down to time. I feel like even when I play like something like Dofi versus Rebecca, which both the decks are late game decks, and especially Rebecca loves to stall. I've played that matchup a couple times, and the longest in-person matches have lasted is about 25 minutes, 25 to 30 minutes. That's me knowing the deck, your opponent knowing the deck. So I feel like if you know, you're playing a match and you're going towards overtime and it's heading in that direction, one of the two is definitely stalling. Like I feel like playing one single match, regardless of what 2 leaders it is, it should never have to go to overtime and you know, someone being decided the winner because of, oh, there's no more time, let's see who has more life. And so as you guys can see here, we're in the tournament rules manual, and you can find this on the official One Piece website. You just got to go to rules, go to tournament rules manual. It'll be right there. Under this section is on page 32. It's slow play. So basically it talks about how if your opponent is deliberately trying to delay the game and take you to overtime, then they can definitely get obviously it says right there penalty. If they get a warning, it equals a game loss. And so I feel like these steps are definitely going to be needed taken serious because you don't want to lose a game because your opponent is stalling. They give a couple examples there, and the one I want to point out there, it says, right here, a player thinks about their next play for more than a minute, slowing the game down significantly, right? So not only are they icing you out if you're playing high and everything's going well for you, they're taking a minute for one single action. That's definitely gonna slow down the game, slow down the momentum that you had, and overall I think a minute per action is just way too long.
Yeah, 100%. Like we said, it's in the official rules. It's not a hard rule. Like if somebody goes a minute for an action, you can't like call a judge and be like, oh, I timed them a minute. You have to give me game win and give them game loss. These are more like it says examples. So this is when you should call a judge. So if you time somebody a minute for thinking about an action, especially later into a game, 100% call a judge. And the judge will call them out if they ever try to slow roll, give them a warning, and then if they ever see it happen again, you will be awarded the game win.
I think personally, I feel like some of these steps are going to be needed because there are people that like to cheat in the game. People they're going to see this and be like, okay, I'm going to keep my actions down to 59 seconds. I'm going to make sure that I'm acting like I'm gonna play on time and play correctly, but really I'm gonna stall, and I'm playing clean. I'm gonna go play for life. Things like this. I feel like people are gonna try to abuse, just like with any system. People try to find ways to abuse to give themselves the upper hand. So I mean, personally, I'm definitely gonna be watching out for this, and definitely gonna be using the call the judge button whenever I have the opportunity, because I don't want to lose a game going to overtime. The overtime finishes and then I have less life, and a queen just played a Yamato their last turn and won because of that.
Yep, unfortunately, as we've covered in this channel before, there has been proven to be multiple instances and multiple people that are willing to cheat and want to cheat to get these exclusive prizes in tournaments. They are obviously go for a lot if you win the top prizes, but cheating is never okay and never fun to play against 100% and never fun to deal with. But unfortunately, you have to be ready for it. You should always be recording if you can. And if you do run into somebody that you think is slow rolling, please do call a judge and save yourself from a miserable game experience.
Yeah, and then personally, I believe that as long as you're just playing your game and there's gonna be a moment where you have to take a slow turn, and you take two minutes and a half to play your whole turn. But even still, then that's only the late game where you have to do math, especially like Whitebeard, for example. Usually, cookie cutter turns up until the last two turns of the game. Then it's like, okay, let me think for a minute. Okay, I'm gonna play this. Let me do some math for another minute because I have to really figure out if I can go for lethal or if I have to stall out for another turn. And then, okay, boom, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes go by, pass. But it's the last two turns of the match. So that is completely okay. But if you're taking 1 minute per action and then 5 minutes have gone by and it's still your turn, then, that's a different story. I'm calling the judge. We're going to get it settled. Just don't abuse this. I mean, that's the moral of the story, is just don't abuse slow play. Don't go into a tournament expecting to, go to overtime every single match and then get first place because you stalled out 9-10 opponents. All right, Pirates, thank you guys so much for sticking to the end of this video. We really appreciate all your guys' support. I know I said I was going to advertise the giveaway every third video, but I'm lying. I'm going to do it every video just so you guys know that at 1,000 subscribers, we're going to be doing a huge giveaway for a lot of people. We might even do a live stream for it. That's up in the air. We'll talk about that later. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment, like, subscribe, comment down below what you guys think about this ruling in particular, and how do you think it's going to affect tournament play. But without further ado, we'll see you guys on the next video. You guys have a wonderful day. Peace.